Thank you guys for joining. I am Noah Rosenblatt, and today we are going to be talking architecture with David McAlpin. David is joining us. He's got over 45 years of architect experience with us for the next 30 minutes. We could get whatever we can out of this guy. He is a partner and principal over at Fradkin and McAlpin Architects. They launched that practice in about 2000. And David participates in all sorts of deals going on out there. We're talking about mega complex projects, large scale deals, also smaller bespoke residential deals. So he knows what he's talking about. And this is an area, guys, this is an area that I don't think we have enough topics on, talking points on, whether it's engineering, permits, costs, time. That's the kind of thing that we need to know to pass on to our clients. So, David, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to go right into it, David, and ask you the first question is, what is the role of an architect, and what does an architect bring to a table, especially for an apartment that needs extensive work?
Well, architects think in the world three-dimensionally, which is actually sort of an unusual thing. We've been trained in it. We, look at spaces, we remember things. And what we bring is to realize the client's vision. And even part of the realizing it is defining it. So if you have a client that is intrigued by an older space that needs to be reconfigured, we can help them get excited about it, and really, from this point of view, would help you close the deal. A lot of people are afraid of renovations. They hear horror stories, but if you have an experienced guide to get you through it, that's how you do it. So,
well, that's what we're going to talk about with you today, David. So, in terms of timeliness, could you just talk a little bit about when you should hire an architect, and actually more practically is, when should you probably not hire an architect and only need a contractor? Let's just get that out of the way.
Well, if you're doing something very simple and limited, replacing tile in a bathroom, replacing the fixtures in the bathroom, maybe changing a kitchen sink, that doesn't need the kind of thing that we do. And you might have purely decorative things like adding draperies or table lamps, or that's also more of an interior decorator. Not to say that we look at everything. So can't remember the first part of your question. But that was
well, I'm just curious, is that at what point do we need to say, all right, we need to bring an architect in here?
I would say the earlier the better. Because we can alert the client to possibilities that they may not even have considered. And on the other side, we can alert them to challenges that need to be overcome. So that's, I would say our job is an education job. We educate our clients as to what they want, as to what it will take to get them there.
David, when do we need to get an engineer involved? Like, when is an engineer required?
Well, structural engineers are generally not required in renovations, but if you're doing something extensive and going into a load-bearing wall, then you're going to need to have a structural engineer. Or if you're hanging a chandelier, oftentimes a building will ask for an engineer's opinion on it. Mechanical engineer, which is electrical, HVAC, plumbing. Most renovations don't need it. The electric can be handled by the electrical contractor. The plumbing is pretty simple, but if it gets complex, then you hire an engineer, and that's most often mechanical, air conditioning. If it's through the wall units, if window units, not necessary. But if it involves central air, a lot of the times we get apartments and we figure out ways to put in central air without using much floor space. Which is in these old buildings, a real plus. And we also look to dropping as few ceilings as possible. So that might get complex and require an engineer's input, and the building might require an engineer's input. So
Okay. So I'm just trying to get an idea of the players on the chessboard, so to speak. If I'm a professional real estate agent and I'm talking to a buyer who is considering a extensive renovation on a property that's going to require all these things. You got the architect, you got two engineers, structural and mechanical,
possibly.
right? And designers, do you handle design of an architect? You just
We
handle,
we are capable of handling design, and we do it all the time. But we also work with designers as well, and we consider that a collaborative. I consider we're like conducting the orchestra. You
okay.
know, down to the laborer who's cleaning up the job site, to the structural engineer who's got this innovative solution to move a column or something like that. Our job is to get the best out of every member of the whole team.
Okay, gotcha. And sometimes you bring in those people, and other times those people are brought in separately, and you're just kind of one of those leading voices in the group to kind of manage
Correct.
everything properly. Okay,
Correct.
gotcha. All right,
And
so we discussed.
I would say one of our strengths is we know the people, we know the people that are best set for the specific task at hand. So,
Right. And that pretty much is architects, designers, and engineers. Am I missing any other player in that game?
oh, it can go. I mean, we're finishing one project that had 11 consultants, from historical input to waterproofing, really weird conditions and waterproofing. So, do even a kitchen designer. I mean, that's
And is
client
that is
wanted
that
everything.
is that normal, or is that just
No, no,
okay? So
that's
if I were to go in the range of a normal, let's just talk normal for a second.
yep,
Let's say I got a 3 to 5, $2 to $5 million place, and the guy's going to put, he's going to put $1 million into it.
yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So
So he's
it's
going to do it
mainly
extensively.
mainly the architect. Um, if perhaps the mechanical engineer, if there's central air involved.
Okay.
And I mean, that's about it on the professionals. Um, you know, Expediter is in New York, necessary.
Okay,
So
so and the expediter is in charge of the permits, and who's doing all the permits and the paperwork and all that? Is that the architect that does that?
well, the architect, there are three steps with the city.
Okay,
One, you ask the city, can I do this? You get an approval. Second, you say, I'm doing this. The contractor says, I'm doing this, and he gets it a permit. And in the end, you say, I did it. It's all done. And that's the architect. So it's approval, permit, sign off.
okay,
Um, so,
good. And that's a good pivot point because the next question is what are the renovation project steps, right? I mean, and I want to go just a little bit into that if you
yeah.
can.
So there's a big divide somewhere in the middle, and that's between planning and execution. Planning is the design. What do you want to do? Then it's documenting it, telling it to the contractor and the building department. This is what we're planning on doing. And then there's also finding the contractor. We've worked with many. We're always looking for new, but we generally like to get 3 to 4 prices. That way you know what the market is. So that's all planning. Then it switches when you actually hire the contractor and you're going through it. That's overseeing the construction, and that's the execution. So planning can take anywhere from 4 months to 7 months. 4 months is kind of lightning for the scope of things that you're doing.
Wow.
Execution can be 6 to 9 months and more. But and six is pretty quick too.
And when we're talking about the planning part of this whole phase, is that also the permits and the applications and
Yep.
the
Yep.
waiting period? Okay, so
Yep.
is that one of the main reasons why that's delayed, or there's other things going on that even if that wasn't delayed, it still would take us 4 months?
Yeah, I mean, we overlap some of the documentation and the city approvals, and finding the contractor. I mean, how long is it going to take to negotiate a contract with a contractor? 2 weeks is the shortest. 2 months is the longest. I mean, that's, that I've seen.
Right.
So the city, on a simple is 4 to 6 weeks, but you're overlapping that with doing the contractor, at the same time. So getting the approval of this for the city. So
Okay.
it's a lot of moving parts, and that's what we coordinate.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as agents, we're supposed to answer a lot of questions. We're supposed to know a lot about a lot of different things. And I mean, sometimes we can get into a position where we feel obligated to give answers,
Mhm.
even though it's not in our lane, you know. Um, and
Call
saying
me.
I don't know is a great answer, by the way, is a great
Yeah,
answer, by the way.
yeah.
So I just want to get, if I have, give me an opinion on a couple of different, if I have a studio or a one bedroom, small apartment, and I'm going to do an extensive renovation on it, what kind of timeline is that going to take versus a classic 7 or a classic 8? Yeah, I'm just trying to hit the broader market, not go into the
Well,
super low.
well, I mean, if you add up my lightning for the studio, that's 10 months. Maybe you can
Okay.
do it in 9. That's 4 plus 6. Maybe you can do it in 9. And
Okay.
the uh so that's the bigger one, add up 7 plus 9 is 16 months.
So you're talking about a year and a half from
Yeah.
planning to execution and
Yeah.
cleanup.
We
Okay.
ju- we just did one where it's an extensive decoration. We're not moving much in the way of the walls, and that took us 4.5 months. Actually, it took us 5 months to get to the contract. We were done with the um, drawings in 4.5 months, but the month and a half was getting through the building and the building department. So
So if
building was a number of back and forth. That's another potential hang up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that next. But before I go there, is there anything like what are the top one or two things as an agent we could say to someone considering all this that hasn't made the decision yet? That,
Well,
hey,
I'd
listen,
say
if you're going into this, this is what here's a couple things you need to know, kind of a thing.
I would start with, when you're done, this is going to be yours. It's going to fulfill a dream that you have. Maybe not the whole dream, but it's going to be something you wake up every morning and smile to live there. So the to get there, being clear about what you want and making decisions quickly with the help of a professional get you there quicker. And being focused on what matters
Right.
to you.
Okay. Getting right down to the most important, but the emotional element, right? The emotional element.
Yes.
Um, let's get back. When is it necessary, David, to involve the Department of Buildings?
Generally, the trigger for that is moving plumbing or moving walls. That's that if you're just changing finishes, they don't need to be involved. And the project that I mean, we often do that too. So you still though need to go through the building. Most buildings now have an engineer that review your plans, and you need somebody to speak with the engineer in their terms.
Okay. So plumbing, if you're moving plumbing, if you're moving walls, those are the two main things that we can get we can get away with stuff as long as we're not moving those
Yeah,
things.
and
Okay.
some buildings still require you to file, even if it's really not technically required.
Right.
Some co-op boards or condo boards, you know, want the DOB to bless it.
I mean, can I ask like a little off the off the record question?
Sure.
I mean,
Turn the recording off.
how
Just
many
kidding.
people out there just don't do it, don't file, don't permit, they don't do it the proper way, they just go ahead and do it, maybe the
I
building
would
engineer.
say it's less and less. It
Right.
used to be, in the 70s and 80s, it used to be, that was like a thing. It's harder and harder to get away with. And I just want to say, we're not cops. You know, we're there to guide you. And I mean, there may be some extreme cases where we don't want to be involved with it because it would affect our license. But you know, we're not cops. We're not there to tell you what you can't do.
Right. Okay.
We're there to tell you what you can do.
Certificate of occupancy. I want to just cover this really quick. What do you do if the building does not have a C of O, or if the C of O is incorrect, causing a problem there?
Well, that's a red flag because because if the C of O is not correct, then you're going to need to amend it, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. Years ago, I actually amended a non-existent C of O. I don't think you can do that anymore. That gets you into the logic of the building department. But I mean, really, it needs to be brought up. It needs to be brought up to code.
Okay.
That's
And
not to say that, I mean, and okay, so let's say you go down the line, you do the drawings, you hire a contractor, you go in. I would think it would not be a co-op, it would be a townhouse, for instance. Okay. Your risk is somebody from the Department of Buildings walking by looking for a fine, and bingo, you're stopped work and you're probably 6 to 8 months minimum before you can start again.
right. Too much of a risk. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. This is one of the most, I think, critical topics and questions I think that agents encounter in the field is costs. I know this varies greatly.
Yep.
Right. So I guess we're going to talk about the higher end of the spectrum here, right? Someone that's bringing in an architect, someone that's bringing in multiple experts. So could you please just one by one outline how could one estimate construction costs?
Well, I mean, I think you start like most things like this is in a very rough, ballpark kind of idea. I mean, I would say ballpark, not Boston versus New York. It's soccer versus or football versus baseball. But a gut is $600 to $800 a foot. Could be way more.
For a gut job.
Yeah, for a gut job. Could be, I mean, could be way more. I mean, we've done projects up to 2,500 a foot. On the other hand, we've done guts that are, in the past 400 or 500 a foot. But, one of the things of COVID is everything's gone up. So that's gut.
So let's say it's not gut. Let's say it's something that's more decorative.
If it's more decorative, on the other hand, I'm thinking, it's 250 to 300 a foot. And this is, by the way, just the general, are we or do we have the appetite to get into this? To get a better idea is what you do is you get a scheme. This room is going to get this room is going to get that. You get maybe a 2-page narrative, and then you can get a more precise, although I hate to use that word, a more reasoned approach as to what the money is going to be, and we could help do that. So I mean, that's again bringing in early. I'd hate to have somebody buy an apartment and then wake up and say, "Oh my goodness, what I want to do is 2 times what I was thinking it was going to cost."
Well, let's itemize it. A kitchen. What are you looking at for a kitchen? Complete gut kitchen renovation these days.
Well, I mean, and the 2 big cost centers are kitchens and bathrooms. Kitchens, you 150 to 350.
What about dollar amounts? Dollar amounts here, David.
No, 150,000 to 350,000, and that's
for
like
a kitchen. 150,000 to 300,000. I can't redo a kitchen for 100 grand anymore.
Well, if you're a developer, you can probably do it for less than 100 grand.
Wow.
If you're not replacing everything, you're just, maybe replacing only the wall cabinets or the doors. We've often done that where we keep the cabinets, but the doors go in. Yeah, you can get under 100.
Wow. What about
But
bathrooms?
this is take everything out and put it all new. And
right.
maybe the sink is in another, the sink is in another place and it's reconfigured. and it's may probably expanded a little bit too. Bathrooms, 50 to 125. That's, you could probably go more, the developers are probably getting them for 40, 45, maybe even less, but developer is doing many of them. They're using cheaper materials.
Right.
And so they get the volume discount and also just, material costs. Generally speaking, material versus labor, it's about 50-50 in the end.
That's what
Uh,
I heard. I mean, I heard it's 50-50. I mean, you got the labor 50, you got the materials 50. So if you could kind of keep the materials in line, right, and
yeah.
not go gold-plated everything,
Yep.
so to
Yep.
speak,
Yep.
you could control a lot of those costs, right? I mean,
Yep.
I'm trying to think of what an agent can say to a buyer who's maybe waking up to the realization like, oh my God, this is going to be 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
what I thought it was going to be.
But
What can I do to
and most of the variability, you're right, is in the material, in the materials. Because, to put a plastic laminate counter on doesn't take that much different labor than to put a marble counter on.
right,
It is different, but it's not, not the same.
right. All right, guys. We got about 5 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, I just have a couple of questions here that I had. I was hoping you guys could put a couple of questions in that chat that you've encountered or that you're based on what David's telling us here. Please put it in that chat. We got a few more minutes, but until then, until I see something here, David, how can an architect help us close a deal? I know we talked about it a lot, but let's just put it all together.
Well, it's by taking the energy that your client has and making it spark. Uh, so that they can begin to, see themselves in the place.
Make the dream a reality, so to speak.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And actually, you make it a reality in drawings, for us first, but also in words too.
Hey,
So,
David, how much would it cost for me to get a drawing from you to present to a buyer, maybe paint the vision a little bit, get a little excitement going on? How much would that cost me?
it's let's say around 1,000, under 800 to 1,000, say.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to
Yeah.
know. All right, I got a couple questions here. First question is going to be any advice on how to navigate the DOB application process?
Know what you want to do, get a good expediter, and believe it or not, there are often bumpy roads at the DOB, so you just need to know somebody who can navigate them.
Okay. Next question. How much for a gut renovation for a 20 by 50? I know this is specific, putting you on the spot here. A 20 by 50
1,000,
2 to 3 family townhouse.
20 by, well, how many square feet total? How many
I don't
floors is
know.
it? Well, let's
Well, if
say it's
it's
4 floor. Let's say it's 4 floors because that's sort of an average. So
okay.
that's 4,000. That's 4,000 feet. So 4 times. Let's see. Got to line my zeros up. 240 to 320. That sounds low.
That
No, no.
sounds low.
Yeah,
Two
no,
to
no.
three
It's
family townhouse. I think you're talking
two
millions,
two
probably
point four 2.4 to
to 3
4
million.
point, yeah, 3.2. 2.4 to 3.
2.4 to 3.2 million. Look at that. 2 seconds. We got that. That's pretty impressive. I got a gut job in a 2-bedroom, which was done in the 1980s. I can't find out. Oh, I thought there was a question there. I'm sorry. Okay. How much to cost to renovate a kitchen and 2 bathrooms? Well, we did that before. So if we added that up, we're looking at like what, 200 grand?
Well, let's say there are 2 bathrooms at 50 and the kitchen's at 200, so 300.
There you go. Okay. Um,
I mean,
that's it for the questions.
that's sort of, putting your finger in the air on that.
I mean, how much
Yeah.
could you do from just talking it out, right? Every place is so specific, every place is so unique. And let's face it, a lot of people look, in terms of renovation, some people just plug and play. Like, you got an extensive where they rip everything out and they reconfigure walls and they open it up
Right.
to an open this and they put the sink over there with the water coming down.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
do. There's that, and then there's people that's like, all right, let's just rip up the appliances and put a new countertop in, and I'll
exactly.
paint the cabinets. So it's like,
That's more the contractor kind of thing, because you're dealing with
Yeah.
what you got and you're putting new pieces in.
Yeah.
The architect is re-envisioning with you
I
for
would
you.
agree with that. Guys, any final questions? We got a couple of minutes posted in that chat. I can't answer these questions. I also put David's email in the chat. You guys can go take that. You guys can go email him all you want. Okay. Email him all you want. Email him 10 times a day if you want. Well, not 10 times a day, but you can email him. Sorry, David.
Yeah.
That's basically it. I mean, my last question would only be up. Do you get involved with window replacements?
Not so much as a sole, as if that's the only scope. We do plenty of window replacements when it's part of a job. My advice to that would be, go to there are half a dozen window companies in the city, and they handle if there's a landmarks application, they handle all the file. They got people to do that all the time.
Yeah, and usually the building also has some preferred contractors that they've worked with in the past. Maybe the building can find out some information too.
Yep.
I got some more questions. What to do to manage contractors so not to make mistakes such as installing items in the wrong height, or the faucet is so high you can't open the mirror. Little things, like little things that don't come together right.
This is this is
That's the hard
God
part.
is in
Yeah.
the details. This is the saying, and the properly documented work and a contractor that knows that he's being looked at, that he's I mean, we had a job where a laborer installed a windowsill upside down. It's pretty simple, but you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
But
I mean, humans make mistakes.
yeah, but if you have a contractor that has a good reputation and he knows that somebody's looking over his shoulder, and more importantly, he knows that somebody is going to be giving him his next job. That is really critical. I say the plumber doesn't come to your job for your job. He's already got that. He's coming to your job for the next one.
It's like us agents. What have you done for me lately? Right? I mean, a referral is only as good as the next one. You know what I'm I love that because I've been in a couple extensive renovation sites, and there was always the architect walking around watching the guys, and he told me something. I'm like, I bet you see a lot. I bet you see a lot of stuff. He's like, well, one thing I see if they're not working.
Yeah.
And that's something no owner would ever see. He's like, if they're not doing their job on a daily basis and they haven't completed these 5 tasks that I have laid out for today, someone's going to be all over that.
Another good
Whereas if you
sniff
don't,
test is how clean is the site.
yeah, that's a good point.
That's a sniff test, basically.
That tells you everything, how clean it is.
Yeah.
What was the cost per square foot for renovating kitchens and baths? I think I have here, renovation could be 450 to 900. Oh, that's not kitchen. That's a good renovation.
Kitchen, I mean, kitchen just to take, well, I said, 150 to 350, that's for like a 250 square foot kitchen. So
yeah, 150 to 350.
Yep.
Is that how big kitchens usually are? About 200 square feet? 250?
Well, no, that's a sizable kitchen. I mean, a kitchen
Yeah.
can go down to, under 100 even, but that's,
Okay.
that's like a galley.
Yeah.
100 would be what, 10 by 10, or make it 12 by 8 or something like that. And that's
Yeah, something rectangular or something.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions before I last call? But you do have David's email in the chat. I'm going to post it one more time, guys, in case you want to grab that here. It's right there. I know these questions sometimes don't come to you until later. So if you have a question later on, or if you're supposed to say thank you, or $1,000, I'd be all over that all day long. If I got a buyer or a seller, even if I had a seller that has an extensive renovation and I'm selling it, and you bring in some ideas of what you could do with it, or bring even David.
We're doing that right now for an estate sale, which hasn't been renovated in a long time, and it's really the kitchen, maids' rooms areas that need to be relooked at. It's an old kitchen that's far away, and there's a maids' room, and that's not.
I'm just saying, a lot of buyers they're scared of what they don't know. And if they're going to a place that needs a renovation, they probably have questions, and it's always good to have those questions answered. So like I'm just saying, connect somehow.
Yeah.
Connect somehow so that you can get these people's questions answered in an independent, unbiased way that doesn't involve you. You know, it'll help them see the dream. Last question I got here before I let you go here. How much did renovation prices increase since the pandemic? I love that question.
It's, you know, I've heard anywhere from, you know, the high 20s to the high 30s%.
I feel like it's like 50 to 70%.
Yeah. Feels more like that.
We got the headline and the core is what we got here.
Yeah, I wonder how much, you know, I don't know how much a quart of milk changed, but you know, it's probably more.
I don't know. Chocolate's pretty expensive right now. Go take a
Well,
look at chocolate, but that's not,
yes.
that doesn't affect us here, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. One thing is, you know, over the last couple of years, the supply chain issues have ironed out. You know, a couple of
Right.
years ago, you were waiting for that air conditioning unit, you know, 10 months, or you know, it's just and that's actually by another, you know, another thing is that sometimes when you're planning early, you can get that stuff ordered. So you're not sitting around waiting for.
So that's what I'm talking about, guys. A couple of things you could tell your clients that are considering this is, number one, plan early. Plan early. Get your drawing set up early. Get your expediter ready.
Yeah.
Right? Like these are things you could say beforehand. Hey, if you're going to go through this process, these are a couple of things I could pass on to you. This is the stuff I'm getting from what David said from today. So it's up to you.
If we're the conductor, we got to know the score, basically.
There you go. Got to know the score. David, thank you so much. That is David McAlpin. Thank you for joining us. He is the partner and principal over at Fradkin and McAlpin Architects. I am Noah Rosenblatt, and thank you guys for coming today. I thought this was very interesting and different. Reach out to Dave if you have any questions. Other than that, we will catch you guys next time, and good luck out there. Thanks again, David.
Great. Thank you.